One evening, I was taken back to warm summer nights spent with my grandparents in New England, where the field behind their little gray house would blaze with fireflies. And it got me thinking, wow, this is the first time I've seen a firefly in years. But why? It turns out it wasn't just me. Dozens, if not hundreds, of blog posts, articles, Reddit threads, and social media videos started popping up around 2020, all describing the same thing. Being reminded, one way or another, about the magic of fireflies, how their flickering lights would glow by the hundreds or thousands, and catching a few in a jar was not only easy, but felt like holding something more like a fairy than a bug in your hand. But when people ventured out to find them now, and maybe share that magic with their own kids, they discovered that the fire had seemingly gone out. From there, they started asking the same questions. Where are all the fireflies? Why have they disappeared? And why didn't we notice? Beyond that, for a bug that represents childlike curiosity and wonder, what does it say about the world we live in now compared to just a few decades ago? Join me as we unravel some of these questions and more, and enter the Codex Legendarium. I'm Shelby Melanson. As more and more people started noticing fireflies were among the missing, scientists caught wind of the anecdotes and decided to look into it themselves. That's when they realized something weird. Not only were the vanishing firefly anecdotes true, for a long time, people and science had basically forgotten that bugs exist at all. In a 2021 study, researchers looked at 132 species of fireflies, a little over 3/4 of the species in North America. 18 of them were either critically endangered, or vulnerable. Another handful could become vulnerable in the near future, and around 40 were stable. That's already a rough situation, but here's where it starts getting worse. More than half the species of fireflies the researchers looked at had to be labeled as data deficient, meaning we just don't know where they are, or how many are left, or what's going on with them. Responses from other researchers poured in, and here's what a few of them told AP. Quote, "We don't know enough about them to even make a guess. They could be doing really well. They could be extinct, for all we know." Quote, "It's kind of like we've taken fireflies for granted for many decades. Everybody just assumes that we know all about them and that we know all the species and everybody loves them. You know, they're bioluminescent, so that's really cool, kids love them, but it's amazing how little we know about them." Quote, "They're too important for us to lose, but they're too small for us to notice." The insufficient data problem gets even worse on other continents. The co-chair of the Firefly Specialist Group said in 2024 that, quote, "Only 1% of the total known species in Southeast Asia have been assessed." And he added that all of them are at risk of extinction in the near future. Back to the US and Canada, here's the thing. If we assume that the species we don't have data on follow the same pattern as the ones we do, roughly 30% of firefly species could be in trouble. Some scientists have said we could be the last generation to even see them, although others say it's not quite that bad yet. Okay, so we know very little about their numbers, but what do we know about the bugs themselves? And does any of it shed light on why they're vanishing? It's easy to see why the dance of the fireflies is a core childhood memory for a lot of people. They live on every continent in the world except Antarctica. There are 2,400 different species, and more than 170 of them live in the US. They're especially common east of the Mississippi. Unfortunately, west of that, they're a little more rare. Sorry, California. And Hawaii doesn't have them at all. Lightning bugs are nothing new either. We've even found fossils of them from 99 million years ago, so they were actually lighting up the dinosaur age too. They mostly come out in summer months when temperatures are above 60 degrees. You're more likely to find them in fields or forests rather than manicured lawns and cities, although we'll talk more about that one later. They only fly a few feet off the ground, the perfect height to delight kids who are also just 2 or 3 feet tall. They're not picky eaters, and different species will chow down on anything from plant or fruit nectar to snails, slugs, worms, or in some cases, other fireflies. Yeah, you heard that one right. But if you'd rather your fireflies not resort to cannibalism, you can drop an apple slice in your firefly jar to give them a snack instead. Contrary to their name, they're not actually flies. They're beetles. They have 4 separate stages of growth: egg, larva, pupa, and after complete metamorphosis, adult. It's the exact same process butterflies and moths go through, which is fitting in my opinion because both are natural wonders in a sense, bravely and beautifully taking flight even though basically everything out there wants to eat them. All 3 of them are also probably the most universally unhated bugs in the world, even for people who hate bugs. Anyway, their whole life cycle can take anywhere from a couple of months to 3 years. As for the part that people care most about, how they create their fairy-like glow. It happens thanks to a chemical reaction, when a bioluminescent molecule called luciferin combines with oxygen and an enzyme called luciferase. I know the name, just stay with me. It's a chemical reaction so unique that it's been used in forensics crime scene testing, to study tumor growth in cancer research, and even to test for life on Mars. The light it generates is called cold light because it generates no heat whatsoever, and no infrared or ultraviolet either. Basically, it works more like a glow stick than a light bulb. Thanks to that, Firefly light is actually the most energy efficient light in the world. Super cool, literally. All fireflies glow in the larval stage, usually called glowworms, though only some species glow as adults. Of the adults that do glow, they also have different flash patterns, which mean different things. They light up to ward off predators and also to find mates. Some of their patterns are so unique and ethereal that they've been mistaken for ghosts, will-o'-the-wisps, and even UFOs. If you're patient, you can even use a small pen light to talk with them, and they'll actually answer you. Okay, that's what science tells us about fireflies. But what about their name, or rather, names? In North America, they're fireflies or lightning bugs. In the UK, they're glowworms. Australia calls them moonbugs, named after the soft glow of the moon. Other parts of the world use names like golden sparklers, fire devils, or blinkies. One ethnic group in the country of Cameroon in Africa calls them fire of God. And from what I could find, at least 40 other languages have their own names for the bugs as well. As you might expect, the scientific name of the bug's bioluminescent molecule in Latin means light-bearing. As for the individual species, Chinese lanterns and woodland lucies represent the bug's connection to the forest. Others are inspired by their likeness to will-o'-the-wisps, like blue ghosts and even heebie-jeebies. My favorite, Big Dippers, are actually named after the way they fly. Not the constellation, but still it's a fitting reference, and we'll come back to that later. With names like those, maybe it's no wonder that almost every culture in the world has myths, legends, and stories about them. And diving into these stories is where the true meaning of what the bugs represent to people comes to life. Let's start in medieval Japan with some almost fairy tale-like legends. Around 700 years ago, conflict broke out between the country's 2 rival imperial courts, the northern and the southern. Fighting on the side of the southern court was a warrior named Era Korezumi. Despite his noble efforts, he and his fellow soldiers lost the Battle of Hotarumaru in 1336 and were forced to retreat. The warrior's sword was also badly damaged in the fight. And that was a great loss because the sword had been forged by one of the country's most famous and gifted swordsmiths. That night, the warrior fell asleep beside a riverbed, exhausted from the battle. While he slept, he dreamt that countless fireflies appeared, landed on the blade of his damaged sword, and made the weapon blaze with golden light. He woke up the next morning after a deep sleep and immediately unsheathed his sword. When he did, he discovered it had been restored to its former glory. That legendary weapon became known as the Hotarumaru, or Firefly Circle. The sword was kept at his family shrine, one of the oldest in Japan called the Aso Shrine, for generations, and it was considered an heirloom treasure. It was later designated a national treasure of Japan in 1931 before it was lost during World War II. Some say the weapon actually still exists in a private collection somewhere in Japan. A little pop culture side note, the anime Demon Slayer references this story in the character Hotaru Haganesuka, Tanjiro's hilarious and often very angry swordsmith. His first name means firefly, while his surname means steel. Staying in Japan, fireflies have been said to guide lost souls for centuries. Legends say the bugs actually help those who have passed away to navigate the boundary between life and death, and light the way towards reincarnation. The earliest of those stories calls them the lanterns of the world. This is also why firefly-inspired decorations appear in Japanese funeral services. Similar myths actually describe the bugs as the souls of warriors who died in battle. Every year in June, festivals are held to watch the Battle of the Fireflies, as two species of the bugs gather, representing two clans of warriors. These stories also inspired more modern ones, like Studio Ghibli's Grave of the Fireflies, all about the deaths that came after the atomic bombings on Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II. Likewise, Appalachian folklore says blue ghost fireflies are the spirits of Confederate soldiers who died in the American Civil War. Malaysia and Indonesia consider fireflies messengers of ancestral spirits, while others consider them a warning. In the Mediterranean, fireflies are said to rise from graves and hint at danger. In sub-Saharan Africa, fireflies are tied to ghosts or witches. And in Togo and Ghana, stories even describe a vampiric creature called the adze that looks like a firefly but transforms into a human-like being when caught. Some in Victorian England even believed seeing the bugs was an omen of death. Though I wouldn't worry too much about that one. The Victorians pretty much believed everything was an omen of death. But that's about it for the negative firefly legends. The overwhelming majority of them describe them as good omens, like in West and Central Africa, where fireflies in your home means you'll soon get a visitor, or enjoy good luck. Others say fireflies can be made into various kinds of potions, used to make it rain, protect yourself if someone tries to poison you, chase away nightmares, or even vanquish sorcerers. A lot of cultures take the firefly's seemingly magical properties a step further. Not only are they a light in the darkness, they are the light in the darkness. Folklore from Kenya, as well as the Amazon rainforest, says the insect's light was given by the gods. Amazonian cultures also say the bugs are the transformed eyes of shamans, or spiritual guides, who watch over their communities after they die. Likewise, a story from Navajo, Native American tradition, describes how the first people, first man and first woman, created the cosmos. The beings used enormous pieces of quartz crystal to create the sun, moon, and stars, and arranged them in the sky. As they worked, a coyote came and insisted on helping them. But when he grabbed the blanket that the remaining small pieces of quartz were resting on, they all went flying. Some became meteors, but the smallest pieces became fireflies. On the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, fireflies are said to carry lights from the stars. Going hand in hand, many cultures also have legends urging people to treat fireflies with kindness, and above all, not to kill them. If you do, they could make you sick, like in Zambian stories, or curse you, like one trickster fox in an Apache legend. He stole the blessing of fire from the Firefly village and gave it to the Apache people. As punishment, the fireflies told the fox he would never use fire again. Some legends even suggest harming fireflies might actually kill you too, like in Hopi tradition. To me, this totally makes sense. Killing a firefly is like how killing a unicorn is described in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
You have slain something so pure that from the moment the blood touches your lips, you will have a half-life, a cursed life.
Ending the life of something pure of heart, be it a spirit guide, a star, or a good omen, for your own selfish gain, yeah, that generally sounds like a bad plan. Apparently those stories were actually needed too, because to my absolute horror, I found out that back in 1947, a lab in Baltimore actually sponsored firefly harvesting. Yeah, you heard that right. The lab got wind of how useful the chemicals that produce firefly light actually are, so it paid kids 25 cents for every 100 of the bugs they captured and killed for their lanterns. The lab was soon killing 1 million of them every year. A company in St. Louis also jumped on the bandwagon and had commissioned the harvest of, quote, more than 100 million fireflies by the early 90s, according to a report. Thankfully, the practice is effectively over now, since we can make a synthetic version of the same chemical. Some cities in Japan have even passed laws making it illegal to kill fireflies. Unfortunately, the firefly massacres of yesteryear are only part of the challenges stacking up against the fairy-like bugs. There's no question. Firefly habitats are getting smaller as our cities get bigger. We're pouring concrete over more and more of the world. In the suburbs, letting leaves pile up in your yard is something your HOA might fine you for now, instead of just being a natural sanctuary for insects and small animals. Pollution is also a problem, and in ways you might not expect. Besides air and water issues, we're filling our nighttime skies with powerful artificial light. Those blazing new LED street lamps and car headlights, they block out nature's more gentle varieties, meaning fireflies struggle to find each other and mate. Now, I'm not against development, but I also hope kids of the future will get to experience the magic of fireflies and other parts of the natural world like so many of us did growing up. Those are all real, tangible challenges, but as I was digging into this, I couldn't help but notice another, more philosophical perspective as well. When we're kids, we embrace the fact that we don't understand most things, and that's okay, because it makes every day new, different, exciting, a chance to learn, and a little bit magical. As we grow up, that sense of wonder, if you will, disappears little by little. Now apply that to a bigger scale. The more known we think our world is, the less room there is for imagination and everyday magic. We stop noticing it, like we stopped noticing fireflies when they began to dwindle. Look at it like this. A creature that glows in the dark, appears only on perfect summer nights, creates a stunning and ethereal natural fireworks display, and is said to be anything from a spirit guide to a vessel for the light of the stars. Is it really a wonder that something like that wouldn't be able to exist in a world where nature and mystery have been stripped away? We talked a lot about mythology earlier, but some very similar ideas come up in literature too. There are way too many of them to talk about, so I'll put a few of them up on screen for those that want to pause the video. Here's the gist. Novels, poetry, and artistic writing describe fireflies the same way the myths do, like stars. But many of them also take that symbolism further. Comparing the bugs to fairies, and even more deeply, using them as a symbol for the soul. Take the poem Fireflies by Eugene Lee Hamilton's Sonnets of the Wingless Hours. It describes fireflies as souls allowed to wander as they please. It also describes how fireflies vanish from sight at the break of dawn. In poetry, the arrival of dawn can also represent the arrival of knowledge, or modern thinking. And with that, the wisdom and imagination that come with knowing we don't know everything gets cast out. So if fireflies represent the soul, what happens when the dawn comes and everyday magic is washed away? If that one's a bit much for you, look at the Owl City song by the same name. Singer Adam Young has explained that the song was inspired by insomnia, and okay, it's obvious why. But I think there's more to it. Adam, if you ever see this, you can let me know if I got this right. To me, the fireflies he's singing to represent a time when life was simpler, full of nostalgia and authenticity. Trying to make himself believe that planet Earth turns slowly is the wish to hold on to that dreamlike world. Keep in mind, this song was written in 2009, right as the almost universally loved 90s and 2000s were coming to a close. Later in this song, hating goodbyes and misty eyes as the fireflies said farewell is the sadness of waking up, of seeing that world slip away. But saving a few to keep in a jar for when times get tough, i.e. when dreams get real bizarre, is a reminder of where to look for that more simple life. Maybe that's watching an old movie, or getting away from screens and enjoying nature and human connection. Things that, poetically speaking, feed the soul. Let's take a step back. Something amazing happened this summer. The habitat destruction, the light pollution, none of that changed. But for some reason, the firefly numbers exploded for the first time in years. What's even more interesting, they also showed up in places you'd least expect to find them, including my own neighborhood in New York City, which, let me tell you, has a serious lack of green space and a lot of concrete. Yet, for some reason, almost every night this June and July, I was literally surrounded by fireflies dancing at my feet as I walked home in the evenings. And it wasn't just me. When I went online to research it, tons of forums and blog posts and articles all said the same thing. Fireflies had returned. But why? Science says it's thanks to more rain this year, which, okay, probably did help a lot. But going back to all that philosophy, people are starting to care about everyday magic again. As for fireflies, here's what that means. Conservation efforts have started paying closer attention to the bug's population. Citizen science programs are actually teaching people how to cultivate firefly and butterfly habitat, and even certify their backyards as sanctuaries. Even school kids in Japan are getting in on the same action, helping to raise and release fireflies back into their natural habitat. Annual firefly viewing parties are getting more popular, especially for the only 2 places in the world home to synchronous fireflies. Yeah, that's right. In just a small part of Southeast Asia and one single Tennessee town called Elmont, deep in the Great Smoky Mountains, countless fireflies of just one single species come together, and they light up perfectly in unison. They sync up to create a natural light show for just 2 weeks every year. The explorer Sir Francis Drake actually recorded seeing this all the way back in the East Indies, aka Southeast Asia, in 1577. Now, people from all over the world travel to these 2 places, hoping to catch a glimpse. This is honestly an amazing mystery all by itself, so let me know if you want to see more on this. Honestly, I really want to go see it myself. If all of these stories and myths are true, maybe the return of the magic fairy bugs, if you will, says a lot more about us and our collective thinking than meets the eye. There's no getting around it. We've hit the point where we are rejecting the fake and reaching for authenticity, and remembering the value of when times were simpler. It's what makes nostalgia so powerful, and part of why millennials and many others who are old enough to remember what life was like before the whole omnipresent screen thing, it's why we miss the 90s so much. Everyday life just felt different then. Slower, more genuine, and with little yet profound moments of beauty, like the first golden flashes of fireflies in the summer. Especially compared to now, when AI-created content is everywhere, human connection is suffering, and the quiet corners of the world are fewer and farther between. Stars come to Earth, ambassadors of everyday magic, guides from the spiritual realm, or just a marvel of the natural world created with a perfect mix of chemicals. No matter what you think of them, maybe we'd all benefit a little from remembering what it felt like to dance alongside the fireflies and embrace simple joys. And when dusk falls, allow yourself to be transported into the world where the ordinary becomes extraordinary. But what do you think? Were fireflies a big part of your summer memories? And did you notice when they started to vanish or when they reappeared again this summer? And if you did, what do they mean to you? Let me know in the comments. Honestly, I've really enjoyed reading and replying to your thoughts on the past episodes we've had so far. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into mysteries, myths, culture, and science, drop us a like and subscribe. Thank you.